In the Midwest area. There you go. Well, speaking of money and money that you might owe, we're talking to Michael Jankins this morning, talking about bankruptcy law and different things that you need to know about. And something I've never heard of this morning, Michael, is reaffirmation agreements. So let's break that down. What exactly is that?
I don't think Jesse James ever needed one.
No, he handled it on his own.
Yes.
We're not recommending you that do that. We recommend getting some great advice from someone who knows what they're talking about.
So when a person files for bankruptcy, often they will come in and they go, I don't want to lose my house and I don't want to lose my car, so I don't want to include those in the bankruptcy. I want to make sure you understand that I don't want these included.
Okay.
And so we explain it's not really a matter of whether you're including it per se or not. The process involves first listing all of the debts that you've got, regardless of whether you want to keep them or whether you don't. And whether you are going to get out of the debt. There's some debts that don't go away in bankruptcy. They still got to be disclosed to the court that they exist. And so
that's not possible. You have to list everything.
You have to list everything. So in effect, they're in the bankruptcy, but that doesn't mean you're going to not be able to keep them just because they're in the bankruptcy. Because once they go into bankruptcy, different debts can be treated in different ways.
Okay.
And so that's where this concept of a reaffirmation agreement comes into play. Because a reaffirmation agreement is then something that is entered into between the person in the bankruptcy and the bank or the mortgage company that has a loan that the person wants to keep. So typically these are going to be for things that are secured debts. It's almost never going to be for an unsecured debt like a credit card or something like that. And so what occurs is a person, I call it a bankruptcy contract. They enter into an agreement with Wells Fargo or Bank of America or Ford Credit, and it says they want to keep their car, they want to keep their home, and so it's got to be signed by the person filing bankruptcy because it's a contract. It's got to be signed by the bank or the credit union or the lender saying that they're on board with it. And just so everybody understands, this doesn't change anything. None of the terms change. They're not modified. You just get the exact same loan you had that you started the bankruptcy with. When you get out of the bankruptcy, you got this exact same loan and the exact same terms. Nothing changes.
So you're continuing to make payments.
That's right.
On those items that are part of this agreement.
It's just saying the car loan I had before, the mortgage loan I had before, it's in this bankruptcy, and when the bankruptcy is over, it's coming back out.
Okay.
Just like it was never in there.
You're still responsible for what you were before going in.
That's right. So it was like it was never in it. Now, the more important signature on this reaffirmation agreement after the person filing the case and the bank representative is me.
Is the attorney?
If I sign it, which if they're filed, it's my practice, that's what occurs. I sign it, and it's under a declaration that I believe that it's not going to pose an undue hardship on my client by them getting into this thing. So I've got to be mindful of what the situation is and not just throw my client into a bad situation just because they want to have it. Because the reason they're in the bankruptcy is because they didn't always make the best decisions.
Right. They didn't make the payments.
And so then the most important signature of all after me is the judge got to sign it. Because if the judge doesn't sign it, there's no agreement.
And are there times when the judge won't
There are.
sign?
If they're filed when they maybe shouldn't have been, the judge is there to basically be a safety measure to make sure, again, that the people who have continually made less than perfect decisions about their finances don't make another one while the court's involved.
Okay.
And so there's some standards that are in place, both for me to sign this agreement and for the judge to agree to it. So when a person files the bankruptcy, part of these filings are a lot of paperwork called schedules, and so there'll be a schedule showing what the person's current income is.
Okay.
So it shows basically what their average monthly earnings are, the taxes are out, the insurances are out, their 401k stuff. And then it shows what we've shown is their budget of everyday living expenses on another page, their house payment or rent, their utilities, their grocery bill, car insurance, gas, all the things that they have every month or over a period of a normal year. And then after subtracting those living expenses from the income, the net income, you can't be in the hole or underwater.
Right.
That means if you have that you're showing you got a car payment of $350 and you want to keep it, but it shows you're $100 in the hole if you do, on its face, that's suggesting that you can't afford something,
right.
namely this car. So we're very careful when we put these cases together about showing how the budget is. If a person we know wants to keep these things and get a reaffirmation agreement, because sometimes it's not that big of a deal if you're off on something and there's a lot of discretionary items. I mean, sometimes we'll put $100 or $200 in this budget for recreation and entertainment. Well, a person doesn't have to have it at all, and if that makes the difference between they can afford the car or not, well, then we're going to back down that number just to make sure that this budget is flush. Because when it's submitted to the judge, if that budget is even a few dollars underwater, $5, she's not going to sign the agreement. And
so
then,
let's say they signed and you are supposed to be making payments, let's say on a vehicle, and you don't. What happens then?
well, after the case is over, when you get your discharge, you have a little period of time where if you did file it and sign it, you can still back out. I believe you have 60 days from after you signed it to back out, or until the discharge date. And so if something happened, you lost your job in the interim, or you got sick and couldn't work,
right.
you have a limited window of opportunity where you can back out of this thing and file a document to rescind it or withdraw it. But otherwise, it's your baby. You signed up for it, and something happens 6 months after the bankruptcy, and you lose your job, all bets are off. They can repossess it. They can sue you for the loss that they take. So it's pretty serious. But we have to go with what factors are in existence at the time, and we're comfortable signing these agreements as long as...
I was going to say, in your professional opinion, what do you think of these agreements?
Well, a lot of people need these they want to build up their credit after bankruptcy, and the car payment's the best way to do it.
Do that, okay.
So that would be a benefit, I guess, to this reaffirmation agreement.
Yeah, credit reporting, that's the major benefit. Really, for cars, it's the only benefit, what you get in credit reporting, because you'll have an active debt of significance that you're paying, and that will elevate your credit score after bankruptcy, and you can have a really good credit score probably within a year of bankruptcy with one of these.
Okay.
Now with houses, it's a whole different deal. With a house, again, it's important to make sure you're making the right decision, and on a first mortgage anyway, you have very little downside, because if there is a foreclosure later on and you signed up for one of these, in the vast, vast majority of mortgage foreclosures in Iowa, because of our legal process that we have under state law, the mortgage companies waive any loss they might take. It's called the deficiency. And so even if you do mess up after you signed up for a first mortgage, the consequences financially aren't that grave. I mean, there will be a foreclosure suit that will be filed against you, but that isn't that horrible compared to owing any money on the thing. And the benefit with the mortgage, with the big mortgage companies, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, if you don't reaffirm this debt, and then 3 years down the road, after a perfect payment history, you want to maybe refinance your house, they won't do it. Oh, you didn't reaffirm it, we're not doing it.
Oh.
Okay.
And there's no law that says they can't do that. They just will not.
Okay.
And sometimes it can be difficult even to refinance with another mortgage company, not Wells Fargo or Bank of America. For some reason, they just seem to make it very difficult to allow a person to refinance if they didn't reaffirm their loan when they did their bankruptcy. Even if it wasn't with them, they may still have a good credit score and everything. And I don't think that's a universal thought by the mortgage companies, but we hear of many people that have had difficulty when they didn't do it. So some people get very upset when they thought they were going to be able to reaffirm their house loan and it didn't get done.
Right.
Now, with cars, well, they automatically send them to us. We don't have to ask for it. They just send them. With mortgages, back 10, 15 years ago, most of the mortgage companies would automatically send them. And I don't know if it was because they thought it was a waste of paper with all the documents, but all of them stopped. So now the person has to actually request it of the mortgage company, and then they will send it to us, and we go through the process. And we tell all our clients, or we try to anyway, when they're signing their bankruptcy, if you want one of these for your house, you have to call your mortgage company, and we tell them what department and everything and tell them what to say, because without the request, it won't get
It's
sent.
just not just going to happen.
And we have only a 3-month period while the bankruptcy is open to process these things.
Okay.
And so it does take time, and we get some pretty upset people if they don't have one when
Right.
they wanted
When
one.
they wanted one.
I get other people who used other attorneys calling me complaining, hey, I filed bankruptcy 3 years ago, my lawyer didn't do this. Well, it's not always a lawyer's fault. I mean, sometimes the mortgage company didn't get it done. And sometimes it was sitting on their desk signed and they didn't file it because they're so big and they make mistakes.
Oh, okay.
We try to get it done all the time because we have our clients call and we tell them you got to stay on it. If you don't see that we've sent it to you in a month, you better call and ask about it and call a mortgage company again because we do our best to try to get this done for people.
Well, and that's why it's good to have a great lawyer in your corner making sure they know everything that's going on. So if you'd like to learn more about the reaffirmation agreement, how can they get in touch with you, Michael? Because there's obviously lots involved.
You can call me at 255-1855, or you can find me on the internet at www.iowa-bankruptcylaw.com.
Perfect.
All right.
Thank you for teaching us
Let's
something
hope we
new
never
this
have
morning.
to call you.
But in case you do,
Yep.
this is
He's
the
the
guy
man.
to call. All right, we'll be right back. You're watching CWI Live on KCWI Channel 23.